Hey there, welcome. If you enjoy powerful stories, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss one. Jessica always woke before the rooster. Life on the dairy farm had trained her well. Boots on, hair in a bun, out the door, before the sun. She didn't need to think. Her body remembered. Her father, Charles, showed pride in quiet glances. Her mother, Helen, in warm pies and extra blankets. The Morrisons didn't speak love. They lived it. Everything changed one summer at the county fair. Jess, carrying jam jars, collided with Mike. Popcorn flew, butter stained her shirt, and laughter broke the silence. He apologized with an easy smile. That day they talked like old friends. He wanted to build a future. She dreamed of escaping. Hers. In each other they found hope. Secret letters, stolen moments, and quiet promises led to a hidden wedding. No guests, just love. Mike earned a partial scholarship, and Jess, wanting to help, applied to be a flight attendant. She trained hard, flew far, and lived the dream. But the distance grew heavy. Mike's calls got shorter. His voice tired. She told herself it was stress, exams, life. Then came Paris. A long shift, a quiet layover, a charming supervisor named Brad. He noticed her, listened, made her laugh, and when the loneliness screamed louder than her conscience, she stayed. One night became a turning point. Back home, silence waited. In the mailbox, a letter. Mike had seen everything. Photos synced to their shared Wi-Fi. The evidence was unintentional but complete. His words weren't angry, just broken. "You're no longer my home," he wrote. Jess collapsed. She had crossed a line, not just of love, but of self. She rushed back to the farm, craving comfort. But fate had one more twist. Her mother had suffered a stroke, half her body still, her eyes dim. Jess knelt beside her, whispering, "Forgive me for going so far." And there, in that quiet house filled with unspoken love, she understood. Some journeys don't take you back. Some wounds change you forever. The uniform stayed in the closet. The city lights were behind her now. Boots on, hair in a bun. Jess returned to the land that raised her, but not as the girl who left. The farm wasn't a place anymore. It was a promise. Jess came back not for comfort, but because no one else could. Her father, once a force of nature, now struggled with a glass of water. Her mother, locked in silence by illness, needed everything. Jess stepped into every role without pause. Caregiver, farmer, manager, daughter. Mornings began at the medicine cabinet, measuring drops, checking pulses, kneading life back into limbs that forgot how to move. By sunrise, she was in boots and gloves, pushing through barns thick with hay and memory. The scent of livestock clung to her like a second skin. Not unpleasant, just familiar, like the way her mother once guided her tiny hands around warm eggs. Grain for the pigs, buckets for the cows, fences mended, records scribbled in weathered notebooks. Jess haggled with feed suppliers and calmed down sick calves better than most vets could. On Sundays, she swept church floors with old neighbors who had nothing left to gossip about, because Jess gave them nothing but grit. She spoke aloud while walking fields, read headlines to her mother who no longer replied, laughed at her own. Jokes because someone had to. It was how she kept her mother's spirit in the room, even when the body didn't respond. Over time, people started to look at Jess differently. No longer the girl who left for distant skies. She was now the one who stayed when staying was hardest. The pastor spoke of her in sermons. The pharmacist quietly stopped charging. Even the old ladies who once whispered now nodded with quiet respect. But none of that made the weight lighter. Some nights, Jess crashed onto the couch, still in mud-streaked clothes. Other nights, she broke down behind the barn, where no one could hear. Once, she fainted beside a busted tractor, woke up in a clinic, then returned before the nurses even finished the paperwork. One gray afternoon, a scrappy little dog wandered up the path, soaked, skinny, and clever-eyed. Jess fed him leftovers, built him a shelter from hay and crate wood. He stayed. She named him Blue, after the ribbon her mom used to wear on better days. He followed her everywhere, a quiet witness to every burden she carried. Her father, once, so guarded, began to open up. Fixing fences together, he'd tell stories of younger years, of love and mistakes and the girl her mother once was. One afternoon, he said softly, "You've become everything your mom hoped to be." Jess didn't respond, just kept hammering through the lump in her throat. Letters came from her past life. Former co-workers, curious friends. Some admired her choice to walk away. Others wanted to know if she'd return to flying. She never, wrote back. The letters stayed in an old shoebox under her bed. Her world now was soil, sky, and survival, not seatbelts and runways. And then one evening, while the sky burned orange behind the fields, Jess realized she hadn't thought of Mike in ages. Not with pain, not with longing, just peace. A deep, settling quiet like the land itself had said, "You're home." That night, a newborn calf struggled to breathe. Jess knelt beside it, warming its body with blankets and hope. Blue sat beside her, unmoving. The scent of wet straw, antiseptic, and love hung heavy in the air. She didn't leave its side. Not because it was easy, but because staying, even when it hurt, had become the way she healed. Jess was in the middle of barn chores when a soft voice floated through the air. "Jessica." She turned slowly. A young boy stood in the doorway. Messy brown curls, golden eyes, a toy car in one hand, and a backpack slung over one shoulder. Her heart stuttered. "Are you Jessica?" he asked gently. Before she could reply, heavy footsteps followed. A taller figure stepped into view. Mike, older, broader, with tired eyes and a few days' stubble. He wore worn denim and a plain shirt, holding a bottle of water. He placed a hand protectively on the boy's shoulder. "We were driving through. He wanted to see real animals. I remembered this place. I remembered you." Jess held herself together, barely. The child, curious and kind, touched the calf gently, instinctively. Just like Mike used to. "His name?" she asked, even though she already knew the answer. "Jacob. He just turned 7. 7, the exact number of years since Mike had walked away." Jess watched the boy explore, fearless but kind. The resemblance was undeniable. Her dream life stood before her, but it belonged to someone else now. He didn't said little. Just left her with a small envelope and a soft, "If you ever want to talk." She didn't respond. What could she say? That she'd never stopped loving him? That his absence echoed in the silence of every day? As their car vanished down the road, Jess turned back. The calf, frail but standing, looked up at her. And, for the first time in years, she let herself cry. Quietly, fully, not out of longing, but release. Then came the letter. Weeks later, the family lawyer called her in. In a room lined with dusty books, he handed her a sealed envelope. "Your mother left this for you, to be opened only after her passing." Jess opened it slowly. It was Helen's handwriting, rounded, careful, and warm. Inside, a secret unraveled everything. 30 years earlier, during a stormy night, a young woman arrived at the farm, soaked and terrified. She begged someone to care for her baby. She said she couldn't stay. Then she vanished. Helen and her husband, childless and full of hope, raised that baby as their own. That baby was Jess. The revelation hit her like a crashing wave. Her roots weren't what she thought. Her life had started in silence and shadows, The woman's name, Karen Stevens. Jess's breath caught. That was Brad's last name, the same man who had once shattered her trust in Paris. Could the woman who abandoned her be connected to the man who broke her heart? It was too much, too cruel. Her hands trembled and the tears came again, this time not from grief, but from the feeling of being unmoored, untethered, as if the past had rewritten itself. Then the lawyer handed her something else, a property, map and a note from Helen. This land is yours, not because you were born to it, but because you loved it, just as we loved you. Jess held it close. No more questions, just that one truth. This place, this soil, this life, it was hers. That night, something changed. Sitting on the porch with her dog Blue at her side, Jess stared at the moon and thought of all she had survived. The heartbreak, the betrayal, the unanswered questions. And then an idea sparked. What if she could turn this pain into something meaningful? She would stop producing milk for profit. She would convert the farm into a refuge, a safe haven for women burdened by heartbreak, trauma, and guilt, a place to begin again. She called it Mother's Light, a tribute to Helen, who gave her not just a home, but a second chance. Jess reached out to the community, renovated the barn, spread the word. One by one, women came, with quiet eyes and heavy hearts. But over time, laughter returned to the land. Healing bloomed among the fields. And Jess, too, started to heal. Years later, at a local fair, a journalist asked her how she survived everything. Jess looked at the farm, at the women planting seeds, at the joy in their eyes. She smiled, a real, unshakable smile. Life didn't just break me, she said. It handed me the pieces to build something stronger. And with that, she turned back to her work. A woman, no longer shaped by her wounds, but by what she chose to grow from them. If this story moved you, please subscribe and turn on the bell icon. More real, powerful stories are on the way.